I'd like to turn tonight's program over to Bella Evans to give us an update on the LERTA program.
Stand up. Hi, I'm Dan Sharper. Thanks for having me today. I'm the CFO at Bell & Evans. I'm here to ask today for our LERTA to be extended. We have a LERTA currently that we approved for the 114-acre tract that we acquired in July of last year. The 114-acre tract that includes the rendering plant. We've recently purchased 39 acres that borders the rendering plant property between Chestnut Hill Road and Route 22. And with that 39 acres, what we want to do is we want to fast track the development of a hatchery. And what we're planning on doing is building a hatchery on the 39 acres that we have recently purchased, and we'd like the LERTA to be extended to include not only the 114 acres, but the 39 acres. Just a little bit of background about what's going on at Bell & Evans. I'm sure everybody has seen the plant that we're building next to Esther's. We're getting real close to opening that. We're going to take possession of that plant on May 29th, and as I'm sure everybody knows, we do not have a LERTA at that site. We're going to employ an additional, at full capacity, an additional 400 people at that site. We currently employ 1,300 people at our Fredericksburg site. The plans at the rendering plant and the hatchery will increase our employment another over 1,000 people. At the hatchery, we're going to employ about 30 people. And then with our development on the 114-acre tract that the rendering plant sits, we're going to employ about 1,000 people in a processing plant that we're in the design phase of. Our plans back to the 39 acres where we're asking for the LERTA to be extended to are to break ground in the fall of this year. We hope to be operational in that hatchery in late spring, early summer 2016. So, like I mentioned at the onset, this is a fast track program, something that we're really anxious to get moving on. I've already spoken with the township supervisors and the county commissioners, and all indications are that we're going to get the support that we need, and I'm here to ask you guys for your support also.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Just a little, like, you're fine, Dan. Most of you know, Bev's on the township supervisor. There's more than one tract of land there. It's my understanding that the township is already extending the LERTA application to all those tracts of land. So it's not just the one that Bell & Evans is asking for tonight. And since I will not be here next week, I would be in favor of this.
First of all, I'd like to apologize to anyone that I've offended in the attendance at the Cocalico Northern Lebanon boys basketball game. My intent was to encourage the playing of the second team and take out the starters during a rout. It was inconsiderable and extremely poor taste of my chance as president of the Northern Lebanon School Board. So again, I'd like to apologize to all and any that I've offended. In all the criticism that I've faced, what hurts me the most is that people say I do not care about our students. I care about our students, and I show it with my attendance. I've attended more extracurricular activities than any and all my fellow board members combined. There's no greater way to show the support that I care by attending our students' events. This week I will attend my third IU banquet at Donegal. I want to see firsthand what other schools are doing and try to incorporate what they're doing better here at Northern Lebanon. I will also attend my second FFA banquet and award ceremony. The FFA program is one of our strongest extracurricular programs that we offer at Northern Lebanon. All board members are given the exact same invitation, and and I challenge you to ask the other board members how committed they are in showing their support with their attendance to our student activities. I can no longer lead this board after my property was vandalized. Only Dr. Mattel and Mr. Lum reached out to me and to support me into such a spineless attack. The other 6 board members, I did not receive an email, a text, a phone call, a personal note denouncing this act. A horrific attack like this is supposed to bring people together to fight the oppressor, not drive people further apart. I cannot lead a board that is two-faced, conniving, and splintered. One moment our board members are telling Dr. Bell how great he's doing in private. The next moment they're bashing Dr. Bell in the community for the same thing they're praising him for. Members push personal agendas and get them approved, but when their pet project gets public criticisms, it's a lot of becoming a botched implementation by the administration team. As effective at the commencement of the April 14th board meeting, I will resign as president of the Northern Lebanon School Board and my appointment to the EIT-TCC board. I look forward to remaining on the board and sitting in a different chair. I look forward to returning to my Ronald Reagan Tea Party values. I will cherish my role of bringing the truth to light, exposing the two-faced action of my fellow board members, and focusing on the most important thing of this school district, educating our children. I want to thank the public and my supporters who have reached out to me with their handwritten cards, their texts, their phone calls, and their prayers. I've been touched, and I feel God's hand picking me up. I feel regenerated. I feel I'm refocused on representing you on what's best for our school district, not what's best for the union. I apologize to my supporters that I've been shackled in the position of president by my fellow board members to temper the truth. Now my chains have been removed, and I can focus on 100% unfiltered, pure truth and transparency. I look forward to serving the people the next 2 years. I will not do a Peter, but I will proudly stand to support Dr. Bell. He has impacted this school district in so many positive ways that most will not understand or appreciate. Unfortunately, many in the public's biggest complaint is he doesn't live in the school district. He makes too much money, his car allowance is too large, or they didn't like something in his 1999 contract. Is this the best the haters can come up with? An excerpt from the book Resilience by Eric Britton, a former Navy SEAL and Rhodes Scholar, says this: know this, anyone who does anything worthy, anything noble, anything meaningful will have critics. You are a man who does things that are worthy, noble, and meaningful. You will have critics. Some people try to live a life without criticism by shrinking themselves. They try to make themselves invisible, and you know what happens then. It's just not that they diminish themselves, fail to live their best lives, and squander their time. All that happens, of course, but you know what else happens? People criticize them for being invisible. You can't escape criticism. You can't please everyone because very many people are not pleased with themselves. People who hate something in themselves are often harshly critical of others. And people who hate something in themselves find it hard to see honor in someone else. Fortunately, it works the other way. People who are confident of their goodness have an ability to see the quality and potential in others. The essayist Montaigne puts it nicely: the confidence in another man's virtue is no light evidence of man's own. When I shared this little story with my daughter, she reminded me of another quote by Eminem. You got enemies? Good. That means you actually stood up for something in your life. On Easter Sunday, my 89-year father-in-law saw the vandalism on my property for the first time. He said to me, Dave, you're doing something right. I replied, yes, we're doing something right. Thank you.
Before the management committee goes over its agenda, I have something that I'd like to say. I agree with Director Hout that there's a lot of ill will going on from all directions. So I've come up with something. I don't think, well, let me just read this and then I'll go into it. I want to acknowledge that I recognize the anger and frustration of those here in the greater northern Lebanon community. I realize that this board and the school district have lost the respect, trust, and support of the community that we represent. I'd like to list some of the major issues, and they're all over. In just a few short years, for the second time, a trusted and valued coach has been forced out. Parents are concerned about their children's response to the scoring and testing policies of the district. Some in the community are asking for a right-to-know request for various financial documents about the spending habits of the district. This leads me to believe that mistrust exists between the community and the district, and they don't, I'm not living here, but they don't really trust how we manage the district financially. Some on the professional staff feel that the administration has at times responded to incidences with vindictiveness bordering on harassment. Because of this, some have feared to speak out due to retaliation. The administration has concerns that this board has violated the Sunshine Act and is engaged in behavior that has not been in compliance with the superintendent's contract. Some in the community have stated that a member of this board has acted in an unethical manner against board policy. He just resigned. I was contacted by a parent about a significant disruption to the daily routine at East Hanover by an IU class. It includes vulgar language and violent behavior that has caused the school district to go in, East Hanover, to go into lockdown. At the last board meeting, I sat and listened to you. You were heard loud and clear by me. I did not respond because, like most of us here on the board, we did not know all the facts and had only found out about Coach Bouchard on Facebook. I will therefore make a recommendation to this board in order to regain the trust of this community, and all can learn to trust each other, that we take it upon ourselves to initiate an independent outside investigation of our actions and those of the district. I don't know how to proceed with this, but I think a discussion with our solicitor would be in order. I will not be here next week. I'll be on a well-deserved vacation. And I'm vice president. I'll be happy to stay in that position if you want me, but I will not be moving up to president.
Dan, before you start, could I say something?
Yes.
And I have something else that I would like to read. I have heard it said that truth and time walk hand in hand. Last month, many of you left here extremely frustrated, sad, and angry, and in many ways, rightfully so. It wasn't long ago that I sat on the other side of this table and felt frustrated that the board would not respond to my concerns. I just want you to know that I was frustrated at the last meeting because I could not intelligently speak to the issue at hand, since we as a board were not given enough information prior to that meeting, and in fact did not receive details until our executive session after that meeting. Since then, I've had the opportunity to process the numerous events that have occurred over the past 2 months. I've arrived at the following conclusions. 2 wrongs never make a right. Mudslinging and defamation of character, regardless of who it is never helpful. As much as I am devastated by what was done to Mr. Gary Bouchard, I am also saddened by the unfortunate action committed against the Hout family. Number 2, what has happened has given a perception of a lack of integrity within the leadership of our board and has made our ability to lead our district very difficult. I know the decision to resign was very difficult for you, Dave, but I believe you did the right thing, and I'm hoping that we can repair this and move on from here.
Dr. Martelli, I want to thank you for speaking up, and I I want to also echo what you said, that it was definitely difficult last time, and we really did take to heart what the community spoke up and said. And David, I want to thank you for doing what you did tonight, and I think that hopefully we can move forward and mend the board. I do think that moving forward with an outside look into our district would definitely be helpful. So I would like to support you in that, in saying that. I think I would like to look to how we do that, how we pursue that, and what we need to do to make that happen. I also reflect on what happened with Coach Bouchette, and I really feel strongly that we need to look at offering him his position back with no prescription plan, with the opportunity for him to come back and for us to work with him and talk to him and do it the right way this time. I feel like wrongs happened, and I think this is the time to rectify that. So I would really like to say to all of us, hopefully we can mend that as well. So looking to see, do I have support on the board to offer him his position back with no prescription?
Is that a motion?
I think that falls under your committee, Amy, as programs, but I think it's a greater problem, and I agree that it needs to be fixed. You know, the basketball program fired 2 junior high coaches the year before. We didn't hire a proper replacement, and we as the board had to leave that one coach go. So we need to really clean up the process. If a varsity coach can fire junior high coaches without any repercussion, you know, then the next step up would be the AD is the varsity coach's boss, and so why wouldn't they be allowed to fire or do whatever, open the position or whatever? So I think the whole process from junior high to varsity is broken. We also had a situation where a board member didn't want a person to be put on the voting agenda to be hired as a coach, and we allowed one board member to do that. That shouldn't be done either. So I think the whole process and procedures related to our coaches and programs needs to be fixed. And I'm not blaming your committee for having it be broken. It's been broken a long time, but now we're aware that it is broken, and it falls on your committee to come up with a recommendation and process to fix the problem I just outlined.
Well, and I think that's great, David. I think there are definitely 2 issues there, the hiring process and the process to open a position. However, I think as a board, we definitely need to rectify.
And I don't have a problem with that at all, but I'm just saying, this isn't just about Gary Bichette.
Right.
I
agree.
So the boys basketball program fired 2 coaches. The difference is, I guess they were okay with it. So we need to fix it throughout the whole thing.
Yeah, I would agree. I think we have 2 issues here. One is what Dave said is really the policy and the inner workings that this does not happen again, and that there's some oversight and some looking into how it happened, and to make some policies to see that it doesn't happen. On the flip side, we do have an immediate issue, and that is the coach, and a vote today would at least signify that the board is behind the coach, that we feel that he should be brought back without prescription. And that, I think, is the biggest thing in my mind, is that because without prescription lets him know that we stand 100% behind him, not, well, we're kind of behind you, but, oh, by the way, we want you to do this, this, and this. So I think that at least the board should, as a whole, vote up or down, just like we vote on every other hiring and firing of other personnel. So there's 2 issues, but I definitely think that the first thing that you brought up, Dave, was excellent. I think it's a good idea to look at the world problem.
And I would propose, we do have the 3rd Tuesday of the month to be for an extra board meeting. I mean, this is a critical enough issue.
Next year or this year?
What's that?
It's now, okay.
So I won't be the president any longer, but I encourage you that you make this a high priority and fast track this as fast as you can. This isn't Washington DC. There's no reason why you can't have this resolved in a policy in place by the end of the school year. I know you guys are great at pulling things together on a short notice.
And I think you're talking about issue number 2.
I am talking, I'm fine with Glenn's proposal for
Okay.
issue number 1. I'm not, but I'm focused on the big
The
picture.
big picture.
I also would like to say that I think if Mr. Bouchette doesn't want his job back, and I can understand why he wouldn't, okay, that we proceed and get somebody, because we're hurting kids right now. They're not in open gyms, they are not in summer leagues, they have not, you know, in the summer, there was a camp there, we're hurting our kids. So if Mr. Bouchette doesn't want it back, I think we gotta proceed and get somebody in there as fast as possible.
Right.
Funny, isn't it an ongoing process now? Or when are we hiring Nate?
Is that open?
When are we hiring? What's that?
I said it is open, we do have some,
And when are you planning on hiring?
if it closes, we have to look for 2 weeks, so.
2 weeks, okay.
Well, then I would say this is an emergency situation, that we should at least give the opportunity for him to accept his position back. If he wishes not to, we certainly would support Coach Bouchette, understanding that he's been through a lot through this last month, and we would support him if he chose not to. But I think we have the obligation, before we look at those, to give him that opportunity to accept the position back. And I know it's not a voting meeting, but we can bring a vote if it's considered an emergency. If we are all in attendance and we're all here, we can pull it tonight.
I make a motion that we ask Coach Bouchette back as head coach of the basketball teams without a prescription plan.
I will second that.
Any further-
I will second that.
Any further discussion?
I don't know, I'm concerned the precedent we are taking as a board by bringing a vote without us having contact with the administration and discussing this with them. If it be in an executive session now, that'd be fine, but I am concerned anybody could bring to a vote a concern they have personally about any issue, any individual, any person, and then we're left out in the middle before we can actually discuss it. And that's my concern with doing something so quick right now when we really haven't had time to discuss this.
I won't sit here again and listen to the community scream and not be informed until after a meeting in executive session about what
I think a
went
lot of times we're not informed because there have been some in the past that have taken confidential information that's been given to the board and have shared that with the public. And I think, if I'm right or if I'm wrong, I think in this case, we weren't given, I learned through kids at school, and I learned the same way you guys learned, but I think some things can't be shared because it's taken and given to the community, not kept confidential. And so that would be my concern. What does that say about us as a board when we can't deal with things confidentially and keep it to ourselves without sharing it to the public?
We certainly could have had executive session prior to the meeting.
We already had an executive session about this, and that was last month. I have all the information I need. I mean, I really don't have all the information I need because I don't feel like I have enough information. But as much information was given to me, I think we can have this vote after that executive session.
And Steve, I get what you're saying, but from my perspective, I mean, maybe I'm looking at this skewed. I joined the board and I was under the impression, because you're saying that getting input from them, we certainly have gotten input from the administration, but we as a board are the employers. The administration are our employees. And I think that line sometimes gets blurred when things are told to us that this is how it has to happen. I think as a board, we have to stand and say that this is what we feel is right for our community and for the healing process, and then just move on. I don't think it's micromanaging. I think it's as a board taking a decisive decision to say, this is where we stand, and that's it. I don't think it's I don't think we're undermining the administration by doing this. I think we are showing them that this is where we stand as.
I think they know where we stand, but I do think it's undermining the administration, and that's my concern. If we have a vote, my vote will be more in line. I do not want to undermine the administration. The decisions that they make and the board's view of their decisions, because it opens it up that we can do this to anybody we want to do it to. If we have a personal vendetta against somebody, guess what? We can bring that to a vote and publicly share our personal vendetta and try to get 5 people to support us. So if the vote is taken, my vote will be more in support of the process that we need to follow. And that's where my vote would come.
And I understand that. I do think, though, that the board as a whole, though, one of our jobs is to make sure that that does not happen, that vindictive.
And that's true. And I also agree that it should be done.
We are a stopgap to make sure that.
And I think it should be done appropriately, and it should be done the right way. And I think we had an apology from the administration that it was kind of messed up a little bit. It wasn't done necessarily to the way that it should have been done.
The apology, or the?
My understanding that an apology was given. It was.
I think we need to take what we know and do what we can. We need to take what we know from the executive session, which we were told we were given all the information. I don't think there's more information from then till now. I think we need to do what's right as a board. Something like this happening to a coach should never be tolerated, or to anybody else on the administration. If this would have been somebody else, we would not have liked it either. So, I mean, I really think we need to make it right tonight.
And I think it's been tough. I mean, it's been tough. He's a man that we do hold highly. I mean, you can't touch his character. You can't touch his commitment to our students. He's been there. He's given and given and given. And I have no question whatsoever that that is the fact with him. We know who he is. My concern is we do it for this one. We can do it for anybody we choose to make that issue.
Any other discussion? Not, we'll have our roll call.
May I say one more question?
Yeah, sure.
Because I'm sorry, I'm really slow thinking here. So, let's say we vote Gary does not accept the position. So then we go back to wherever you are, Nate. You said you've got several people that are in the wings. You have. And that's not going to close for 2 more weeks, or it's closing shortly, or 1 more week? I'm just trying to work through the whole process of if he does accept, if he doesn't accept, how we're turning around and where that sets us up at. On a side note, who do we have working or overseeing the weight room right now? Bernica and Breckall.
We have no open gyms, and the gym is not open, is that correct? I mean, I've had concerns about that, nobody is there. Is that because there's nobody willing to do it, or no coach?
Okay. So we offer the position to Gary. He's probably going to need a week to really think this one through. So it's not setting us back, because rightfully he could kick us to the curb and just say no. I mean, I think we need to do this, and he probably will give us a quicker answer. Okay, just thinking out loud with a microphone, I'm done. Sorry.
And Sue, to me, it's regardless of which way he goes, it's the fact that we as a board recognize him is the significance. To me, if that was done to me, I probably would not come back. But, and But at least,
I'm just looking at
having
it.
the person that, you know, that having a board say to me, you know, we understand, we're with you, would mean a lot, especially because I live in the same community.
I was just looking, if he's gonna turn us down, then we're not affecting the process that's already out there to get this program back and moving. That's all. That's what I think my ramblings was.
Does your motion include a date to accept the job back?
No. No. I think we've put him through a lot in the last 2 months. Personally, I think he can take as much time as he needs, but that's my personal opinion.
So if he wants till September, October?
I don't think he'll take that on.
Okay.
We're talking about a stand-up character. I don't
Yeah.
think he would certainly be given to the program.
Anyone else?
Before we vote, I'd like to hear the actual wording of the motion.
I make a motion to offer Coach Bouchette the head basketball position back without a prescription plan.
Thank you.
Second. Again.
You know, I've shared, can I say something?
Yeah, sure.
I've shared what I think about the process, but I also, as a board member, realize if anything, we need more than ever before. We need to have unity in our school, in our community. I have great concerns voting on this vote now. But as I'm sitting here thinking of the past few weeks and what's being written out in the public, I'm disappointed in the hatred and the vitriol that's out there. It was started with the coach, it went to Dave, it's going to Dr. Bell. And I'm willing to stand with anybody that's willing to stand for the truth. But in this vote here, I have no problem with the coach coaching for us. If that would bring some of this hatred to an end, and some of this, this absolutely, sometimes very childish attitudes to an end, then I would vote to let him come back because I have no problem with him as a person. But my vote to have him come back would be to hope to quiet and bring unity among our people. We have a great community. We have an incredible group of parents. I've known you all. I've been involved in here for 19 years, been on the board for 14 years. And I have no stronger desire than to see us come together and do what's best for our kids. We've done it for all these years. I'm concerned about how we're doing it, how this vote is being done tonight, but I also realize I got to put some of those things aside and realize what we have to do for each other and for the community. And I would not be opposed in offering the position back to him. And you know my concerns about what we're doing now, but as a person, you can't touch a person's character, and that's where I would feel, hopefully that can bring us together to do nothing else than to do what's right for our kids and what's right for my kids, and that's all been a part of what I've been doing for these last 14 years. But I still have the utmost respect for our administration and who they are as individuals, and I do hope it can cause some divisions to be healed.
I want to piggyback off of that, Steve. I went to this school, and there's many guys in here that know me. I taught in this school. I coached in this school. I was an administrator in this school district, and now I sit on a board. And the hardest job I had is right here. And I'm telling you that right now. It kills me when I don't think what we do is the best for the kids. However, a lot of times parents don't know your hands are tied in so many ways. You know, I wish I was a billionaire. Hey, I'd have AstroTurf in that football field quicker than you could spin your head, okay? But I'm not. If there's a way I could get it, I would get it. Dr. Bell can attest to this, no one. And I don't know a note of music, I couldn't tell you a C from an A. I'm being truthful. But I think I want a music teacher back in the elementary school. When we can get that, I'll get it. I think we have the best kids in the world. I wouldn't trade my kids at that high school and elementary school for any other school district. And I mean that with all my heart. I think we got great teachers. And I mean that with all my heart. And I know that it's been critical. And, you know, I sit here, and when I get home at night, usually I stop in at my mom. She says, how was it? I said, oh my God, they ran over us again. I feel like a bus hit me. And that's okay. You can scream at me all you want. I'm sort of used to that. However, I agree with Steve. We got to start at the bottom and rebuild this trust, okay? And if that comes with elections, so be it. I'm all for it. But nobody bleeds more blue and gold than I do. And every person on this board is in it for kids. And sometimes we make mistakes. And I'll be the first one to admit if I make a mistake. And I made plenty in my time. You know, I'm sure some kids in here say, yeah, she put me in school and I didn't deserve it. It's all right, okay? I'm big enough to admit that. Maybe sometimes I was in a bad mood when they walked in my office. However, you got to build, and we do have great kids. So I will support this motion because I know Mr. Bouchette. He worked for me. And I agree with Steve, he's a man of character. Does he make mistakes? He'd be the first one to say, sometimes I do. And I coached, and there were lots of times I killed myself at night because I didn't sleep because I made a stupid move during a game. We're human. I'm not God. Never professed to be, okay? He just forgives me for that, but I do make mistakes. So I'm going to support this action, but I agree with Mr. Lum that it's time that whether you do it by voting, whatever, okay, you need to realize this is not an easy job. If you realized how many sleepless nights you get, and you don't get a dime for doing this, okay? And I used to always tell my kids, you're going to owe me a bottle for my gray hair at the end of your reign. Hey, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm doing this for 4 years and I'm out the door, okay? Because then somebody else's turn to step up to the plate and do it. I wanted to see how it was done, and it's a hard job, guys. That's my say.
Call for the vote.
Arnold,
Yes.
England,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Dixler,
Yes.
Werner,
Yes.
South, yes, Lum,
Yes.
Martinstown,
Yes.
Howe,
Yes.
all in favor.
Go back to management.
One part of the meeting. Item A. Item B. C. D. E. F. Please label my alphabet. G.
comments that you've got supporting material for the budget. We went over it pretty hard at the IU. There's only 2 budgets you have to approve together. And the one is a 0%, the other's I think a 1.9. And I think we really got to rely on things with retaining good services.
H, actually, on HI, well, not so much a J, but the policies for H and I, Don, do you want to go over them with us or review them or anything?
There's just very small changes and they're all in relationship to the state requirement.
And then J.
I also, last month we had talked about the Northern Lebanon Park and Rec and our support of Tim Worsham as the treasurer. At the last meeting, it was confirmed by the solicitor on NLREC that we do need to have a vote to support Tim as our Northern Lebanon citizen representative, not necessarily the treasurer, but we do need to have that as a vote. So can we add that to, Mary had said, possibly the consensus agenda?
Okay, we'll add it next week.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
We'll add it next week.
Okay.
Which-
Thank you.
Which committee does that appropriate fall under?
Well, if we put it under consensus,
Oh, consensus, okay.
yeah. So we were all in support of it, it's just a formality to, not as the treasurer, but him as the citizen rep.
It'll just be in as part of the group,
Okay,
not under any certain committee.
okay,
Okay.
perfect. Can I ask a question that it led me with that? I know when I'm on the Park and Rec, there's always a solicitor present, and we never have a solicitor here. Is that part of the contract? Well, how does that work? Please.
Used to have solicitors that attended the meetings. Previous boards took that out of the agenda, or I'm sorry, out of the budget. So you're more than welcome to do that again. That's fine, we'll just have to add legal fees to the budget.
I would like to see that. I think it would be good.
Well, since we're talking about the solicitor, I made a recommendation that we consider an outside investigation, and I think it would be prudent for you to all have him here next week so that he can advise this board as to what he thinks and how you might proceed.
Aren't we voting on a solicitor next week?
No,
No, I thought you said we had to.
that's when the completion of the actual bids are coming in.
Oh, okay. Okay. So, yes, I think that would be
Right,
good.
and I don't know, I guess on his advisement, I don't know, since he technically is, we're his clients as he being our solicitor, whether that occurs in public discussion or an executive session. I don't know how he would want to handle that, so that's something you might want to discuss.
How do we go about the whole investigation thing? I mean, you suggested it, but we didn't vote on
I
that.
don't know, I think it's a good idea. There's so much ill will and there's so much innuendo of wrongdoing going on that, as far as I'm concerned, the only way to get over it with the community is to have an outside investigation done.
Is that something you wanted added to the agenda next week? As far as a vote?
I suppose, yeah.
Yeah, that would be my
I think we need to hear what the solicitor would suggest, who's represents a lot of different school districts, and even though we may feel our problems are unique to us, I'm sure they're not unique to, I've talked to the solicitor over the years, and believe it or not, we're not quite to the level of Susquehanna Township or Lancaster School District, so I think he would be able to design a scope of what an investigation or what our needs are, or where we feel the mistrust is between the community and the board and the administration. He can help define what that investigation needs to be.
Could we have a copy of the solicitor contract for next week, just so I know what we are entitled to, what
We're entitled to do whatever we want him to do or hire him to do. I mean, most of the contract is an hourly rate and basic services they provide, but any good law firm, which I think they are, will provide a lot of additional and extra services at a, per diem hourly rate. So if we want them to find us as somebody to investigate to make sure our school lunches are warm enough, they would find us something. If they, something much more serious than that, they would find us who would be appropriate. And I don't know, based on what Dan's saying, I like the concept of the framework of what Dan's saying, but I have no idea what we as a board want them to look into.
That was gonna be my question. We're using the word investigate, and to me, investigate is proactively thinking there's something wrong already. That's just me, semantics games here.
Well, I think there's a lot of
There's a
thought process
lot
out there.
of innuendo out there.
And so the only way it's going to clear the air is that I firmly, this is my personal opinion, I firmly believe the only way to clear the air is that we investigate we have an outside investigation of ourselves since we were established.
So it's not an audit, we do,
No.
that's what we would do.
No, the audits will come
an
up clear.
investigation.
But that
The
doesn't
audits
seem
can't-
to be sufficient. So in order to regain trust, I think that we need to do this.
And I think we should, use our solicitor, but I would like to see our solicitor recommend somebody besides our solicitor, since, everybody thinks we're so connected and ingrown here that how can we get an independent report from the solicitor who we paid all this money for all these years? Let's bring somebody in that none of us know, have no connections with, and is as independent as the word independent can be.
I would like that.
And I don't think any of us know who that is or what we should even look at.
I would leave it up to him recommending to
Yeah,
us,
absolutely.
whether it's in public or if it has to be an executive session, but I think he should certainly be the one to recommend which way we should go.
And I'd like to have as much of it as we can in public, because one of the criticisms is we're not a transparent board. I think we've been transparent as transparent can be, but then I'm sitting on this side of the table, not that side of the table, so.
Okay, so we'll have it set up for next week. I don't know that I would recognize him. I wouldn't even know him, so that'd be great to have him here.
Yeah, I think the last time he really got involved, and it's ironic, is when we had the Jack Byler situation, so it seems like we need to bring him in when we have a coach situation.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Would we be able to meet at 6?
No.
Would the board be amenable to a meeting at 6 if it works out to his schedule? And the public is invited to come at 6. Our committee meetings are open to the public. If it turns into executive session, we just won't be allowed to attend, but on the surface, I don't hear anything that's executive session material, but then I'm an accountant, I'm an attorney.
If we're just asking things not necessarily pertaining to our district, just finding out what you look for, what parameters, whatever, that should be fine for anybody to attend.
Let me just tell you this. The Pennsylvania School Boards Association, even though we're no longer members, and they were actually very nice. They didn't tell the school district that I was with patients, so I left a number and they looked me up, because the first thing the person that called me back says is, I can't really talk to you because you're not a member. And I said, well, yeah, you're right about that, but can I just ask a couple of questions? And so I will say that they were very accommodating, very nice. And this is one reason why I'm recommending that we talk to our solicitor, is because they would then make a recommendation to an outside party. It could be another attorney, it could be anybody. My impression is that they're used to doing this, that they would advise us on how to proceed. So that's that.
Well, I give you kudos for getting info back, because they told me they wouldn't talk to me. So whoever you talk to, sorry, you're not a member, I can't talk to you.
Yeah, that trusting.
But we can become personal members, just for the rest of you, so I'm gonna certainly be doing that, so. I'll pass that on. Yeah, she said you can. I just asked the lady.
Actually, the other thing, I don't know if we need to put it on the agenda or if it would be at the beginning of the meeting. Again, I will not be here. You resigned. Somebody's going to need to be president.
Yeah, so I think the way it's going to work is, it'll be just like our December meeting, where the solicitor asked me not to resign tonight. He asked me to stay on more of a technicality at the beginning of next week, so the school would not be without a president for a week. So I honored that request. So it'll be a reorganizational meeting where we normally appoint Mary as our temporary president and run that, and we do the nominations and the elections for the president. So that's how that'll work. So it'll be very, very similar to our December meetings. And I'll vacate this chair and move to some other seat on the board.
Will that also mean that committees can be readjusted?
I think you should ask the solicitor that question. That was a little more technical than what we thought it was going to be.
No, Bonnie was distracted. Go ahead.
Committees, you want to know, reorganization committees.
It's a reorganization meeting.
Well, it's not really, I'm saying it's similar to that.
Okay.
That we need to follow the same protocol
Right.
that we do at it with since there is no president and Dan's not stepping up, then the way we do it every December is Mary runs the meeting until we elect that person to be the president.
And that was the distraction that Bonnie gave me, is are we supposed to be out looking and coursing again?
Then you gotta find a slate.
The programs committee has to find, or has to take nominations, is that right?
No, I was
You can take nominations from the floor that night.
Dan, am I correct in saying you don't want to take the presidency? Is that?
Yes.
Okay.
And the main reason is I really only have 67 months left. I'm not running for re-election this year already.
Are you?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. I just want to make sure I'm clear. Well, if that is the case, I'm just going to say that I know that there has been discussion about, several of us on the board are also union members. And I would like to publicly say that I feel, I've talked to many teachers who are also union. There has been discussion that it would not be advantageous for us to have a president that is also a member of the union. However, I feel very strongly that that is not the case, and I would welcome members of the union here at Northern Lebanon to speak out to us if you do have a concern about that. Certainly that is something that we can take into consideration, but I know that Mr. Gray, your name was one of the names on previously, so I'm just throwing that out too.
Am I supposed to reply to this?
No, I'm just saying.
Well, I will reply to it. Only that I look at it that this is my first year back, and as as a teacher, I taught here at Northern Lebanon for 11 years, and then moved on to the private and worked for a corporation, and started my business up 3 or 4 years ago, 5 years ago. But the tide is turning for photography, as many of you probably know, with everybody's cell phones, and it's just different taking selfies as senior pictures as opposed to good quality senior pictures. So I still love to, and I still have a passion to create images, and it's good for that, but it's certainly not something that I felt was good financially for my family. So I went back into teaching, which is another love that I have, and I look at it no different than a teacher who retires and then they do something from their 50s to when they actually officially retire, so they don't eat into their retirement nest egg. Same thing here. And what better thing to do than to get to spend a day with kids that want to learn and want to, you challenge them. I mean, it's a dream job. But I also have my background in business, that I know what this school district needs. I am a teacher in Pine Grove, not in Northern Lebanon. So yeah, I don't see that there's an issue with a conflict of interest if what they do up there and what we do down here. When I sit down at this board, I can promise you that I am looking and focusing only on the kids in Northern Lebanon, not how something we would do here would benefit the union up there. I mean, they're two different boards. There is no conflict in my eyes, because the only conflict that you might have is that I maybe see the whole picture. I see the students, because I see them every day. I see the parents. I see the teachers, and I also see the administration because of my business background. So I kind of see it from all different sides, and I am not a, pigeonholed and just saying only this group is worthy of this, and this, I like to think of everybody and try and bring everybody to the table and kind of hash out ideas. I love that our board is not all saying yes to every time, because I think that if you have diversity within your board, and Dave, you talked about being on the other side, having when we've gone back and forth many times over different issues, but every time that we've gone through, I go back and you brought in things that I hadn't thought about, and hopefully I brought in things that you hadn't thought about. But it brings zest and it brings life into an organization if you have healthy discussions. But at the end of the day, we're all people, and we still have to respect you as a person. You're still going to have those. So I'm kind of rambling on here, but I would take a little bit aback that somehow I would have. I'm not sure where this conflict would be for anyone on here that has been in education, if they, just serving on the board or in a committee chair or as president. To me, it's a non-issue.
I guess, Glenn, my biggest concern is, we've just gone through a scandal that I feel that I've self-created myself. And my biggest concern is, can you survive your own scandal? The first time we sat down together at your house at your kitchen table, it was solely to get rid of the school photographer. And
Dave, before you go on,
Wow.
do you want to go into why? Do you want to go into why I recommended that he not be on this in our dealing with our school children? You may want to open this up in public. Because what you are doing is you're making an implication that somehow I did something that was for my own benefit. I was opposed to him. Settle down. I was opposed to him when I was in corporate America, and I would talk to people, and no one. Hey, it was just there was nothing done. So I brought things to your attention in hopes that something would be done, and I am proud of that. I am not. This is not something that I benefited from. He still gets a lot of. In fact, he's still on the website, so he's still getting our recommendation. He's just not doing the yearbook where he's interacting with our children.
Glenn, I support you and I nominate you for next week. I hope that you'll accept it.
I'm not trying to upset you, Glenn. I'm just trying.
You are challenging my ethics, and that I take offense to. It is out of line, it is out of character for you, Dave, to somehow imply that that move was anything but to protect our children. So I'm not going to go any further because anything else that we have to say should go in executive session because of the nature of it.
To go any further. And I support you. I nominate you.
Remember, it walks like a duck. It's a duck.
My concern would be as a union member, being a president in negotiations with our union, I think the public could look on and feel like there's a commonality between you all. And so that would be my concern as a union member, being not so much the president, but in charge of the negotiations with our teachers don't have a contract. And that would be my concern more than anything, you know, for that purpose, for the idea of negotiating with the union. And I think that could look to the public as a conflict of interest, because you have a union member negotiating with a union of a school district.
If the
Well, so
committee
that
is
would
still
be-
set up that way.
Yep, and that's the
Yeah.
president's
That's
decision.
the president's
So
decision.
whoever the president is, that would be his decision.
Maybe we
Their-
need
her
some
decision.
change, because
And
it's
that may,
taking so long.
and that could be, you
And
know.
that would be that would be my concern, just because that would appear to the public, I'm almost positive that would appear to the public, a union member negotiating with the union would be, I think, not good.
Well, I would take that if it would come about, as far as, if that's your concern and it seems legitimate, I'm all about looking at other, at other options or other organizational plans for that.
I guess,
What?
oh, sorry. I guess, I hear what you're saying. I guess maybe I don't understand a whole lot about unions. I was a teacher for 7 years and I opted out of the union, so I was never in one. So maybe I just don't understand, but to me, I would think it would be helpful to have somebody who understands from a teacher's perspective, but yet is on the board and can see both sides. To me, that seems to make, but maybe I'm thinking weird, but because I am thinking weird, somebody said that. So, I don't know, because I've not been on a union, and I don't understand all that, but.
And I can see that if it's a perception issue, that there is legitimacy to it, because if, no matter what contract we would negotiate, there would always be suspicion that somehow I was more in the pocket of, which just, again, from where I'm sitting right now, it's like, I pay my dues, and they do their thing. I don't go to the, I'm not a big union person. I was not a union member for most of my time in Northern Lebanon. But if that's regardless, just the fact that I'm a teacher, if that's an issue, I'm sure that's a hurdle that can easily be overcome by looking at other organizational
My point
plans.
of bringing it up is that we shouldn't overlook you as a president to serve the board as president because you're a union member. I think then we look at the reorganization of the committees and say, as a board, do we think that maybe perceptionally is not the best thing? But it doesn't mean that you can't be president. And I think we got to cross one bridge at a time. But I think at this point, we need somebody to lead this board.
I think what you're saying too is that you're being sensitive to how, and Steve, you're saying this too, you're being sensitive to how the public perceives you. And that's what we just did tonight. We were sensitive to how the public perceived the situation that you went through. And so we do have to be careful of that. And we do have to think about how things look and how they think things are going. So I think we'll consider it, but I do think you would do a good job as president. I second the nomination.
Bonnie is always open. Bonnie.
Hey, you only have 4
Bonnie.
years. Why don't you start?
Bonnie.
I'm just worried about filling the slate. I just said we got one, so.
You ready to go to programs?
Sure.
You did mention Jay in your last, you'd gone over H&I, and you mentioned Jay. Alrighty. Okay, then move on to programs. Any questions on item? I personally thought they looked good. I hadn't gone through yet for the tentative, but
I'm still working on the tentative. I looked at the finals.
yeah, the upcoming tentative ones I've not gone all through yet, but the final ones are not. Okay, any questions on A or B? C. D. E. F. And just as a comment, I was thinking the third Tuesday was starting at the beginning of the 15-16 year, but it is starting this year. Okay. So then, programs committee, we will be, yes, we'll be on. Okay.
Thank you. And Glenn?
Property, item A. Item B.
How is your building property
The
usage?
fees?
How's it coming along?
The fees, we have a tentative, we wanted to get together one last time to go over with Nate and Dr. Bell and the committee, just to kind of just make sure that all of the numbers make sense. But we're pretty firm as far as it looks good at this point. And we were actually hoping to meet tonight, but that wasn't going to happen. So, and it looks like if we meet next week at 6, unless we can meet at 5, that looks your schedule.
You can only meet at 6.
Only meet at 6.
I think we're gonna have to advertise that third Tuesday.
It's already been advertised.
Oh, okay, you do
You
have,
can have to do Sue's foresight.
Pre-advertised.
oh, it's free, okay, so it
So-
already is, okay, well, we'll be meeting.
Could we have the solicitor come at 6:30 and us meet at 6?
If you think the solicitor can cover the.
I'd rather have them
Okay.
at 6.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah,
more time to go. over
Right.
it, yeah. So if we can meet the following week, then we can prepare everything, we can kind of present it and let everybody digest it and vote.
Okay.
And we'd have open that third Tuesday, we'd be open-ended. We've got time. What are you looking for your start date on that? Should it commence with fall?
I was thinking, yeah, that
Okay.
as soon as we can implement it.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay. It's back to you, Dave.
Thank you. That concludes our meeting. Thank you for attending tonight's meeting. Safe travels. We're going to have an executive session. Glenn requested an executive session, so we're going to have that.